This is Trash Talk with your host, Garrett the Trash Man.
Well, we ready to do this?
Let's do our tour.
Oh, dude, I thought we started.
Oh,
Dang it.
No, we
I'm just
started.
teasing.
We started, dude.
I'm teasing.
And, yeah, that's kind of just how this goes. We just go.
Okay,
So,
I'm ready.
yeah, all right, we're going.
Okay,
So, what do you have to tell us?
Oh,
No, you're in charge.
blank, dude. Silence.
No, dude, let's start with some rants.
Let's do our tour.
John, what you got in your mind today?
Mine is a reminder to myself. And my reminder to myself this week is to continue investing in this. The old noggin. The old brain. Invest in yourself. I listened to a couple other podcasts and part of a book that I'm re-listening to. And to be honest, I've just been so busy of late and had so much going on that like my usual time to read or listen to stuff has just really got cut down over the last few months. And now that I'm starting to listen to stuff again, it's good to get reminders of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My experience of us as human beings is that we're a forgetful lot.
Yeah.
And we'll learn something really good, something that can really help us create whatever we want to create in life and go the directions that we want to go and things like that. And then we tend to get forgetful about some of those concepts or principles and stuff. And so it was just really good to be investing in me again and learning more and seeing where I can improve. And so, yeah, if you're not investing in yourself, then you're probably investing in someone else.
Nice. Well, Paul, why don't you share your thoughts on what John just said and then tell us who you are?
No, I actually was gonna echo. Man, that's pretty insightful. Like I feel like I have to learn lessons so many times. Like the experiences of my life, I keep having the same things over and over again because I won't just learn the dadgum lesson that I need to learn so that I can be a better person.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I love that. What actually stood out to me, I was thinking a little bit about, investing in your mind and just growing. I looked back on your podcast with your grandpa Buck and just him talking about how he was always a fan of studying his industry and, learning and growing from people that are in the same industry. And that's one thing when I was in sales, like we did that stuff all the time. And being in property management, I've kind of gotten away from that a little bit. And it would be good to go back and learn from other people and take advantage of people who have been down this road and, try that. So,
Love it, dude.
you want to hear my rant though?
Well, first, let's hear who you are. Because just backstory, we did this once. I messed up the recording. So
this is it.
Well, we're going to get it right this time. So next time you're on, you won't even have to introduce yourself. Everyone will know, but that first time didn't count. So you gotta just let us know real quick who you are.
So yeah, my name is Paul Johnson. I'm a business owner, own a property management company up here in the White Mountains, and then also have an office down in the valley. And live here in Snowflake, living the good life.
Yeah. And now I want to hear your rant.
Dude, so there's this trash company that keeps putting this bin behind my office. And it is not supposed to be there. And if I have to call them one more time, I'm just teasing, man. You've been dumping a bin behind my office, right?
I don't know, dude. What are you talking about? I am not abreast of this situation.
See, this is where you need fact checker Tyler to
Go get the ops manager. Let's figure out this problem.
Hey, to Larson Waste credit, dude, you guys have been on top of it.
Boom.
We call, it's gone.
We keep dropping it off where it's not supposed to be.
I just think it was a misunderstanding.
So it's probably the same, and then the other person's calling us saying, "Hey, get this can back here." Yeah, that's how it goes sometimes.
I think it was all Tyler's fault.
Probably was.
So
Yeah, this guy.
I don't know what he has to do with the trash, but
He's clearly, through the butterfly effect, it's his fault.
no, but really, I'm super excited to be here with you guys. I'm kind of jealous. Like honestly, the fact some of the people that you guys have been able to sit down with and just have conversations with and learn with, like what a cool opportunity.
It is.
No, I'm not speaking of myself, but like for you guys,
shit, boy.
some of the people that you sat down with, I'm like, man, I don't feel worthy to be here. So,
No, that's awesome, dude. You definitely are. Yeah. But my rant is not going to be nearly as positive as either of you two. Because, I look to be more positive when there's an issue with something. I want to address it with who has to do it, unless it's one thing, and that's the town of Snowflake. If it's the town of Snowflake, I'm going to put them on blast every chance I can get. Because holy crap, like, gosh, they make the federal government look efficient. And so I got a couple things to call
hey,
out.
whoa. You know, my dad is the mayor, right?
Yes, I do know that.
That's why I'm laughing so hard.
I do know that.
Hey,
And
let's call him up
Listen,
right now and give it to him.
I'm scared, and I know that's like, if I could say that's on the side of pushing towards something better happening, it's there. But like, man, I've got some proposed solutions that could clean some things up there, in my opinion, and I don't think necessarily the mayor spot is where. I think the system that the mayor is working in needs to be adjusted, and then I think the changes that actually could make a difference could happen in the system we're in. It's like I would say it's like adding additional money to the public school system. Like, that's never going to fix it. When politicians say we're going to reform the school system, like, obviously we are well past reforming the school system. Like, burn it down. And that's kind of how I feel our city is. Like, it's like we need to
burn Snowflake down.
reset, restructure, because there's way too much crap going on.
Hey,
in there.
so just out of curiosity, man, give me like one example or like something specific like that you're just over.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got two of them, actually. so like
Buckle
one,
up.
yeah. So like one is the situation with the golf course.
Okay.
So what happened is probably some teenagers went out there one night and they stole all the range balls. Something like 3,000 golf balls they stole. Some ambitious SOB teenagers. Probably reselling them and making a good profit. So what does the town do? They say, oh, well, we're shutting down the range. If people can't treat it right, we're shutting down the range. And I'm like, whoa. That's like you left your keys in the truck unlocked with the windows down in Compton and come back and they're like, my truck got stolen. Yeah, you're right. Your truck shouldn't get stolen. But how about you do your job every night and clean up the golf balls and they're not just laying out there for teenagers to come steal. And by the way, no, you don't get to just shut down an amenity that the town that's here for the town citizens because you didn't do your job. No, you get to fix the problem that you created by not doing your job. So like that's one specific example where it's just that mindset of like, well, you guys, naughty children. It's like, whoa, you work for us and you didn't do your job, so you go fix that. And if you did do your job and someone broke into there and stole it, then you call the police. You don't shut down this amenity that is here for the town. So there's one.
Hey, dude, I feel like we can probably talk about that for 10 minutes, dude. I feel like there's a lot of depth behind that. Like, that's kind of an old school mentality, no?
What?
And have you not like just shut it down? Let's not look at the issue or address the problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like just shut it down.
Shut it down. Yep, fine.
Have you ever done that with your kids?
Like, what do you mean?
Like your kid does something and instead of like tackling the issue, like, oh, maybe this is a little bit on me as a dad. Like, nope, we're just gonna take it away. Like, you're done.
You know, I don't know if I've really got to that point because my oldest is 4, and some 4-year-olds are high communicating 4-year-olds. Some 4-year-olds don't communicate so much. My 4-year-old's more of like a grunter. So this like negotiate, figure out what the real problem is. Like,
You guys have your own language.
we've got a heathen situation going on with my 4-year-old. So I don't know if I could really speak to that too much.
So what would be your solution? Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, I would say because usually the best example I would say is Yes Family, and I'd say I have a hard comparable with that just because my kids aren't quite at an age where like you can have reasonable conversations quite yet.
Yeah.
I'd say more of like a business.
More specifically, like the golf ball issue.
Yeah.
Like how would you handle that?
Well, like the employee would like the issue is that the job didn't get done that they got cleaned up. Like the opportunity to just show up there and be able to gather all the golf balls and take them should have never been there.
Yeah.
Like it's lock your truck and roll up the windows. That's what the solution is. And yes, your truck could still get stolen. And so like even farther, if that's an issue, don't leave your truck alone in Compton.
So do you fire the employee?
I mean, I think there's a lot more that goes into that. Like, but the issue needs to be addressed there. Not like it's not all of
Not the town's fault.
Yeah, it's not the town's fault because a citizen of Snowflake misbehaved.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, like we have police over here to handle misbehaving citizens situation. Like that's a thing that's over there that handles that. And the operations of how towns do things, like that's separate. And the town's job definitely isn't to like correct citizens' behavior by saying naughty, one of you guys over here misbehaved.
Punishing the whole for something that somebody else did.
Yeah, and again, the opportunity would have never been there to do that if the job was done correctly in the first place.
Gotcha.
And
Hey, Garrett Larson for Snowflake mayor.
No, well, that can't work because, like I said, I'm burning it down. I'm like, this has got to be pulled down. We've got to reallocate money. The mayor's got to actually make a lot more money, so that's a job. So he's not afraid to fire the town manager because the town manager's who's really making the decision. Now I'm getting some hairy parts where I'm going to piss some people off, but so I'll stop right there. But yeah, there just needs to be some rejiggering there because we've got a really bad incentive structure and like the people we actually elect, there's no incentive for them to do what the hard things that they need to get done, especially with like there being no benefit to them. Like because in reality, I think a lot of people either need to be given a good structure, just like a business, to either perform or fail at their job. And then that needs to be measured and then given whichever way it falls. You're either going to perform, this is how we know you're going to perform, or if you don't perform, you're going to lose your job. And like here's the metrics, here's how we're going to understand whether you performed or not performed. Well, the elected officials, like there's no incentive for them to do that because there's just backlash of, well, these poor people, this, that, you can't cut people's jobs, things like that. What about their family? What about this? Like all that, like unless we have someone that can come make a career out of or has a lot higher incentive of being the elected official instead of I'm volunteering, why would you make your life so much harder for that? Like,
He's got a good point.
like I would not get elected and go do what needs to get done in the town. No way, because you're going to cause a lot of freaking headache for yourself. If you own a business, you're going to hurt your business doing it. There's a lot of freaking issues with that. And so there needs to be a high enough compensation for the elected officials that they'll come in and the only incentive in their mind is to produce results for the town. And yes, that takes time, but that at the end of their 2-4 years, however, they will get reelected because they produced the results and it didn't cause a huge mess in the rest of their life. Or if it does, it's not financially impacting them.
Yeah.
That's my issue.
So the elected official needs to be the town manager, per se, not so much the...
Almost, or the elected official needs to be compensated in a way that he's willing to make the decisions necessary. Maybe firing the town manager or other town employees if they're not performing, and deal with the kickback that's going to cause.
Yeah. I mean, I don't... Just because Lynn Johnson is the mayor, I don't have all the ins and outs on the loops of Snowflake, but I will just, speak to that a little bit. Like, I don't know. I think our resources are pretty limited.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, compared to other communities and whatnot. And I don't know. Sometimes I think the officials are just doing the best that they can with the resources that they have.
And that's where I think like a total comprehensive, when I say like, yeah, it's got to be comprehensive, because if there was a plan, like I think there's a way to I can see a possibility of creating more resources for the town and having people on board with that if there was a pathway to success. Like there's a lot I as a business owner would be willing to do, because the more this community grows, my business at this point, like in my business specifically, which it's not the same for everyone, it's essentially split up how it's going to, the pie is split up how it's going to be split up. I can fight back and forth with my competitors. It's going to be very small in the margins, but what they have is what they have. What I have is what I have. There'll be little tiny margins changing. The only growth, true growth that's going to happen is the communities that we're servicing. The pie's got to grow.
Yeah.
I've got as much of the pie as I'm going to get. Honestly, my competitors got as much of the pie that they're going to get. The pie's got to grow for us to get more. And so, like, it's clear as a business owner that, like, the best way to grow my business is to help the community grow. And so if a committed leader came into the town that could produce results and put plans together, like, I think there would be a lot of business owners willing to help create the resources needed to have that.
Yeah.
But it's going to take someone where it's not a volunteer part-time job.
So just to be the devil's advocate a little bit,
Yeah.
you know, like I'm thinking back to when the marijuana plant came in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a big industry.
Yeah.
That brings a lot of, jobs, growth, pretty much on every spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could look across the board and see how that was going to affect the community in a positive way. Our town officials were for that.
Yeah.
Obviously, they voted it in, right?
Yeah.
But the people weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much of it is the town and its officials versus the people, and just trying to keep, a lot of people in Snowflake want to be here because it is small.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want that growth that you're talking about. You know what I mean? And that's what keeps Snowflake is the fact that it's a small community, and we can kind of get away with some of these things. I don't know. That's an interesting thing, because town officials are elected to represent the people.
See, well,
and in that situation, they went against the voice of the people to some degree, right?
But that's the other thing, though, is like we're not a democracy. Like, that's one of the most obnoxious things I hear from people. I'm like, we're a representative democracy, because it's like minimum wage. The fact that minimum wage goes out to, hey, vote on whether you want minimum wage. Most people have no idea the impact of minimum wage. That should not be something that every citizen votes on. That's why we vote for representatives, to educate themselves on the full impact of raising minimum wages as example, so they can do it. So I think the town did exactly what they're supposed. The leadership of the town did exactly what they're supposed to do. There's a reason that didn't go out to vote for everyone.
Yeah.
I would have been very upset if it did. When stuff goes out to vote like that, it drives me nuts, because most people are not going to take the 20 hours to educate themselves to really make a full decision, like a comprehensive, understand their position decision. And that's why the founders of the country were super wise and knew this shouldn't just be a democracy that majority rules, because most people, like, I include myself in that. Like, I've got a business to run, a family to raise, and hobbies to do. Like, I don't want to look at 40 hours of the economical impact of a marijuana plant and take into consideration how that's going to affect the culture of the town, this, that, and the other, and spend 40, 50 hours considering that decision.
Yeah.
No, I elected someone that I believe has my values, is in most alignment with my values, to do that work for me.
So what happens when that person doesn't represent your best interest?
Well, then we elect someone else.
Yes. I wish it were that easy.
Well,
sometimes.
that's how the system's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something that you said, Paul, that I've thought about a lot of the time is, and we can all see where we've experienced this ourselves, but like you said, a lot of people will say, well, no, like we want to keep Snowflake small. We want to keep that small town feel. And as much as I love that, and that's one of the biggest factors of me still living here, I'm also very aware that if we don't grow, we're going to die.
Well,
and we're going to end up being the next, Holbrook or St. John's.
Well, either way.
And no offense if you live in Holbrook and St. John's.
I just want a leader that comes and either does either or. The 1 foot in, 1 foot out is what doesn't work.
Yeah.
We need to, if a leader will come and run either way on either thing. I'm going to move our town from a podunk town to something that looks more like Queen Creek or Prescott. Someone that's running on that versus someone that says, nope, we don't want to deal with that stuff. But we play 1 foot in, 1 foot out, where we vote in a marijuana plant, but there's these stipulations around it, but then we never hold them accountable to the stipulations because we're too small to really actually play ball with their lawyers and stuff. So they made all these promises that were going to happen, and no one holds them accountable. The town doesn't actually do that. But then on the other side, oh, well, we're going to act like a big town. We hire a new building code manager. So for the past 20 years, what you did didn't matter, but now it really matters because you know what, we're getting bigger and this matters. It's like, no, we need a leader that decides we're either one or the other. Either we're moving ahead forward and we're growing, or no, we're going to stay a little town with this cool feeling, and when new stuff comes in, we're going to push it down. We're going to lose jobs. That's fine. What we're committed to is having this nice, neat, small town feeling.
Well, dude, so $250 a month isn't... No, that's not enough to get you on board to...
Absolutely. The mayor should make 6 figures. The head football coach should make 6 figures. Now, that's if we want to move into being a bigger town. And I'm not joking about the head football coach. We bring in
where does that come in? Where you
You want schools to grow? I mean,
It's
people
true.
are deciding. People are leaving the metros areas in droves, looking at all the communities up here in the mountain, from Payson to Blue Ridge, and I can guarantee you your sports programs have one of the biggest impacts of families deciding where to live. So, yeah, I absolutely believe either the AD or the head football coach needs to make 6 figures.
Kay Solomon would love you.
You're going to get a hug next time.
Listen, but it's got to be someone that shows up and gives 6-figure results. I don't know how Kay Solomon shows up or
Dude,
not.
they got a state championship, bro.
I agree, and I've never said this on the podcast because it's going to make people mad, which all for. The seemed like a great team. I wasn't very connected. I don't think I watched a single game this last year. Good for them. I'm going to have to see, before I get too excited, though, that we've got a really good program, I'm going to have to see a state championship that wasn't the oddest year in human history. You win a state championship in the oddest year in human history. Yes, state championship is state championship. We're going to pay attention. Also, I want to see some results a little bit after that. Then
oh, man. We're stirring all kinds of controversy here. Paul Johnson shows up, and this is going to be like the most controversial podcast you guys have had.
And like I say that like,
hey, this is all Garrett Larson speaking. By the way.
no, but I say that
No, I'm
like
just teasing.
I don't know. Like I don't know. Like Kay may have the best program ever to be built. I have no idea. I know at one point I was going to help out there, and it was really clear to me like the way they did things wasn't working with me, and so I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. That doesn't mean my way is the right way. Like, I don't think that. Like, but yeah, like just as far as results go, like, yeah, that's great, and I'm excited to see what they do this next year, and like I think that will be a lot more telling than like I said, the oddest year in human history, especially for school kids.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of different factors where you can't just say, like, this is comparable to all years that were prior.
You think last year was odd?
A little bit.
Whoa. So what about the girls and boys state track championship?
Well, listen, we know
Is that
we know as long as
illegitimate
as
too?
long as the Johnson. Well, you've done it for the past 8 years, so no, that's solid. Like, clearly there's a good program there. That's what I'm talking about. And it's not that you have to be a state championship every year, but I mean, you went to Snowflake, I went to Snowflake. I mean, it's been real ups and downs, and yeah, it's so like, yeah, hitting an up on a crazy year like doesn't tell me now we've got a great program. We very well may, but I'm not like, hey, yeah, let's go to the bank with that. Like, we've got a good system. So like, we've gone nowhere where I thought we'd go with this podcast.
I'm so sorry.
No, this is great. This is great.
I'm sorry.
The one other thing I gotta say just about efficiency. and I know how cheap these things are. It is not hard to get your hands. Yes, it'll be used, but it's fine. It's not like it's running 40 hours a week all the time. Street sweepers.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can get them up easy. I'm driving down the road, and you know what? I'm happy they were actually doing it, but and this goes to a couple things. They had guys out there just cleaning and I think in preparation of next
24
week,
celebration.
cleaning the streets by hand on 2nd West where the parade goes. Which two things I'm like, that does drive me crazy that people can't just keep their gutters clean anyway. Like it's right there in front of your house. Take some pride in your house and clean that gutter. That should be handled by yourself anyway. And second thing, I'm like, that's freaking town. Get your shit together. Take $5,000 to the Ritchie Brother auction and buy a damn street sweeper. You know what? If you can't afford it, come talk to me. I'll write the check. I will write the damn check. Get a street sweeper here in the summer months. Run it once a month on each street. Goodness gracious.
Hey, dude, business idea, man. That's the next aspect of Larson Waste. That could kind of be incorporated,
I'll
right?
be honest. I can't tell you how close I've been watching Ritchie Brothers auction almost about a street sweeper and be like, screw it, I'm just going to put an employee sweeping the streets out there and
Just
just
go get a contract with the town, dude.
well, if the town's got the money to pay for it to do a contract, why don't they? Yeah. Oh man. This we're out no man's land.
This is why I love Garrett's rants.
I had
Because
no idea.
it's like-
This is how the first 30 minutes of this
He's got
podcast
this little
was gonna
Mary
start.
Poppins bag, and you're like, oh, you know, Garrett's gonna rant about fluffy little bunny rabbits today, and then all of a sudden he's like, all right, pull out the big old sword. We're gonna chop down the tree of the town of Snowflake.
Listen, here's the deal. That's what's great about having a podcast.
You can do whatever the heck you want.
You can
on
do
it.
whatever the hell you want.
I love it.
But yeah, no. Let's. I think everyone's got a good sense of some, and usually just quiet about it, because that's the other thing. Like I'm not willing to step up and do it. I'm much like there's more things that are much more important to me. There's some things in this town that may end up having like not work for me, and I just move. And that's the solution for me, rather than diving in and being like, nope, this has got to be fixed at all costs. And so that's like, that's why I don't go around screaming about it. But I will occasionally hop on Facebook and be like, hey, town, if you're going to fix the road, fix the road. If you're just going to blow rocks everywhere, just don't come do that. Just stay home.
That's why it's called a rant, Garrett. So you
Yeah.
can rant about
Yeah, I
it.
better cool down here, man. Woo! All right, well, let's dive into some business stuff because I think like 90% of our listeners don't live in Snowflake. So, but at least they know how I feel about my town.
But Snowflake is the hub of the universe, right?
It is. It
Oh,
is. I
okay.
was in Nowhere Land, New Mexico yesterday, coming back from Texas. I think it was Capitan or something like that. Like, it was called a village, not even a town. And the guy fueling up next to me, right here from Snowflake, local. Well, he's not from Snowflake. He now lives in Texas, but he was from Snowflake originally and whatnot. And yeah, it is the hub of the universe.
Yeah.
Like you
It's
can't
crazy.
You can't go anywhere with someone being like, Snowflake. Oh yeah, I know someone from there. Or I'm from there. Whatever. So it is crazy. But
So let's talk about business, man.
listen.
I'm not I'm no expert. So
Oh sure. No. So I wish I could remember all my questions, but I do remember kind of the feel or what I had. So kind of and I'm forming this question as I'm saying it, so it'll be a little bit messy. And at the end of what I'm saying, I may actually have a question to come out.
okay.
But my sense or how I've experienced you is someone that's been really intentional around what I think a lot of people would call work-life balance. And I don't know if I'd necessarily call it that because I think that's got a lot of misnomers in it. But I've experienced you as someone that runs your business and doesn't have your business running you. And this is outside looking in, like I said, my experience with you, and it's something that I'm really working on and like I really admire because I'm shooting to be in that direction. My experience is you probably you spend much more time doing things you love than drudging through doing things that you hate. And that's been my sense, and I'm curious, is that how you experience yourself? And if so, did you bring intention to create that when you created your business?
Oh man, that's a deep question.
That's just the first.
I like it. No, yeah, absolutely. I think that some of the decisions in my life, why I got into the industry that I got into, and just early on, some of the experiences that I had kind of guided me and led me to this point, to where I wanted to be, and to have the life that I wanted to have. I remember early on, just this was before I started any of my businesses. I remember like me and my wife were first married, and holidays come around for the first time and people start taking off and things like that, and you're working a normal job from 8 to 5, going to school or doing whatever you're doing. And I just remember this like gut feeling like missing out, that I had to, for major holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, I'm like having to barter to,
Like you got one day.
to take off time,
Yeah.
or to be a part of, cool family experiences or things that I really wanted to enjoy. You know what I mean? And so I think early on I knew right away that I wanted to set myself up in an industry or something where I could take advantage, where I could enjoy that, There's a lot of industries, you look at, I don't want this to come off negative, like, I don't mean to harp on like doctors or dentists, because I think, they make a lot of money and they're successful and they provide a great thing to people. But I always kind of looked at it like, they make a lot of money, but they're not making money unless they're seeing patients.
Yeah.
Unless they're in the office.
Their job owns them.
Working on, looking at people, doing visits with people, or drilling on teeth. And so like quickly, trying to decide which route I was going to go, it was like, hey, I want to do something where I'm going to make money, whether I'm in my office or not. Like whether I'm at work, I want something that's going to be there for me. And so, I mean, just a kind of initial, answer to your question. That's, early on,
It was intentional.
I realized that, and that was the direction that I wanted to go.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious if this was ever there for you, because I could anticipate highly that wasn't, but I'm curious if it was. But something that I've found as I've looked to orient myself to be moving towards that is the wiring in my brain and the stories I tell myself about work. In the past in my life, and still sometimes if I'm not careful, I find myself working for work's sake, as Tim Ferriss puts it. Like, it's like I just have to work because that's what a man does. And I've never experienced you as someone that shies away from work when there's work to be done. Like and like I'm not with you every second of every day, but I know you relatively well. I've known you for a long time, and like I've never been like, man, Paul just is a guy that can't get down and get the job done. And especially knowing your experience in door-to-door sales, like anyone that can be successful in that, even minutely successful, is someone that has a serious work ethic, because I think all three of us have done door-to-door sales, and it's a
grind.
It's so funny because it's like everything is easy after you do that. You do that for a couple years,
so
and
true.
it's like, running a business, you're like, oh, this is easy. Like as far as mentally, at least for me, like it's so much easier to. I have yet to come to any challenge at work. Yeah, maybe they're quote unquote like bigger or like take longer to work through the problem, but staying engaged mentally, nothing is as hard as door to door in my experience. And so like I wouldn't think you were someone that shied away from that. But so what I'm getting at is you were intentional about creating that. As you were creating that and start having experiences where it's like, hey, it's Wednesday afternoon and I want to go mountain bike riding or snowboarding, and I'm going to go do it. Have you ever struggled with worrying about your perception of not working, like people perceiving you as someone that doesn't work hard, or you judging yourself for not working?
Absolutely. I'm kind of fascinated by that question because I felt like I've dealt with that in the different industries that I've been in. I feel like in sales for a period of time that was almost like the reverse role. Like they tried so hard to put off this appearance of like we're playing.
We don't work that much.
Yeah, like
Come work with us.
Look how great our life is.
Uh-huh.
We have these kind of houses. We drive these kind of cars. We do this we golf on this
We've
golf
got
course.
our whole winters off.
Yeah, and I feel like it was kind of, man, you go from polar opposites of that industry to being a business owner, and I've really enjoyed the. That was a very stark, harsh reality, leaving that industry, the sales industry, and kind of being able to set my own boundaries, because at the end of the day, I think that when you're the guy, when the buck stops with you in business, whether you're making money or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that's all the... If you even want to call it guilt or whatever it is, like that's the only self-motivation you need. Whether you have time to go play and you can afford that, or you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's yes or no.
And so through my production in the early years of starting a property management company, it was a grind. It was like sales, man. I remember. I got as ambitious as to go knock on people's doors that I knew had multiple properties, and have that conversation with them, and obviously as I've gotten bigger and production speaks for itself. I can start to afford some of those liberties and really, I'm not perfect at all. If you ask my wife, I probably mountain bike way more than I should. Way more than I should. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it absolutely does. Yeah.
Did you have anything else to say
Go
about
for
that?
it,
Because
yeah.
I had. So this kind of ties into part of what we're talking about. Are you in the building of your, and I know a whole lot less. I've always known what you do, but I know a whole lot less about it than Garrett does. And I think this will also be an interesting question for our listeners to think about. And it is in the domain of work and being a business owner and such, are you to be able to have that balance of like, hey, listen, I know that if I've performed, I can go mountain biking and I'm making money while I'm mountain biking. If I've performed, I can, take a 4-day weekend and not have to worry about paying the bills this month. Like you've performed so that you can have that liberty. And my question around that is, are you the type to do one thing and be specific about it and perform in that until you are excellent at it and are just knocking it out of the ballpark and then move on to the next thing? Or are you more so the type of person that likes to juggle things and have multiple things going on at the same time?
So to answer that question, when I was getting out of the sales industry, one of my managers came to me. We had a phone conversation, and essentially I was telling him I'm moving on, man. And this was a intimate relationship. I had worked for this guy for years, and we had kind of been through thick and thin together. Blood, sweat, and tears. And to be saying, hey, I'm not gonna do this with you anymore. There was a connection there, and I'll never forget what he told me. And I felt like it was just so genuine and heartfelt that normally I could see a manager or somebody being kind of frustrated or mad that I was leaving, that I was going a different route, that I was going to do something else. And I'll never forget what he told me. He said, Paul, whatever you do it 100%. In the sales industry, there's sales guys are funny because though they're salesmen, they're some of the easiest people to sell. And you always see sales guys getting distracted in this thing and that thing and this, you know what I'm saying? And their minds are all over the place, and they can't give 100% efficiency to their craft because they've got 25% going over here and 50% going over here, you know what I mean? And the pie's all broken up. And so I don't know, that was a changing conversation for me. I was just getting into real estate and property management at that time. And unfortunately, like through small, hard experiences, I learned really quickly because I did start to dabble in other things, and it was failing for me. And the property management real estate wasn't going well. And it was like I had to go back to that ground zero of like, okay, no, I was given great advice, and this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. And I'm going to set all other distractions aside and focus on this thing. And that's always kind of, I know that doesn't work for all people. I've argued that with other business guys and other people that, you know, have their hand in multiple different things. But for me, for my personality, this is my focus. This is what I want to be doing. I don't need to be dabbling in stocks and like it just doesn't interest me. You know what I mean? Like, this is my focus. So
Awesome.
So the reason I asked that is I am the exact opposite. I am the person that's like, if I could do every opportunity that came my way, like I'm that guy that's like, literally, I can drive down the road, and my wife is like, how, it's got to be exhausting to be you, because I'll literally sit there and like, I'll see something, and then like 2 minutes later, I'm like, babe, we could totally make a business out of that. We could do this, we could do this, we could buy this, we could start get people to do this, and like, I'll just start spewing just stuff. And she'll be like, great conversation. Like, yeah, you're not going to do that. You've got way too much already on your plate. And the reason I ask that is I find that, yeah, one, you have to find what works for you. And there's always, like, for each person, it's different. There is, like, a sweet spot in that. Because when I only have one thing, like for me, and this is for me personally, I get bored. But if I get too much going on, then I'm just running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and I'm not building anything. I'm just being busy.
yeah.
And so I wanted to see kind of where that worked for you, because I think that's something that is important for people to learn in a lot of aspects of life. But I know for me, that's a struggle still at times. Like, okay, don't get just to the point where all I'm doing is reacting all day and not really getting anywhere, but also like have enough going on that I'm not driving myself crazy looking for a million other opportunities. Like I got to focus in my own way. And I know that's how my experience is, and I know that it's different for everybody else.
We need to get you some more hobbies, man.
I'm working on it.
No, I think it's just to speak that just a little bit. Like I feel like it's kind of been a balancing act for me, and it took time. It took years to figure it out, you know, because there were times when I did have multiple things going on. But it's like, I mean, you could even break it down into like 3 main categories for me. You know, it's like church and family, if you even want to, you know what I mean, tie those into the same aspect. Church and family, hobbies, and work. And if you're going to make time for all of that, you know what I mean, the more work you have, the more pieces of pie you're trying to dabble in, whether it's real estate or stocks or whatever it is, like it starts to take away from some of those other categories. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know. Over time, yeah, I've just found like this is my balance with church and family. This is the balance with my hobbies, and this is, you know, my focus as far as business is concerned. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I love it, dude. Yeah, the question that comes up for me is the word success. When you hear that, who's the first person that comes to mind for you?
Success. Mm-hmm. I don't know. My dad just popped into my mind.
Perfect. Like.
But I hold my dad way up
on
a pedestal. So
yeah,
You could say probably 10 other words, and he might be one of the first people that pops in my mind for all those.
So what's been your experience with him that has him, like, because a lot of times people ask define success, which I don't think there's a ton of value in that, but I think more valuable is who has your dad been with you that he would come to mind when you hear the word success?
Speaking specifically to what we're talking about, like I think he's been a guy that's been able to. My mom may not agree with you because he's so busy, but he's been a guy that's been able to balance his life. You know what I mean? Like if you break it down into the three categories that I broke it down into, like church and family, very important to him. Huge aspect of his life. His hobbies, very important to him. Big part of his life.
Yeah.
His business and what he's done in his business and physical therapy, very important to him. You know what I mean? And so just kind of learning from him, seeing, for me, man, we could talk about experience after experience of, I've come a long ways, from the early years of business and where I was and my ambitions and what I wanted to do and how much money I wanted to make to where I am now, like to taper some of those feelings and emotions and to realize some of the things that are important. Like I feel like my dad is successful because he's got a balance, you know what I mean? And he balances all those aspects of his life. And I don't just look at somebody that makes a ton of money and think, oh, that person's successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they could be way wealthy and successful as far as business is concerned, but their marriage could be in the crapshoot, you know what I mean? And their family relationships may suck, and they're not successful in that, you know what I mean? And so it's just, he's a person that's been able to kind of balance different categories and aspects of that life. So,
and I'd imagine even your ability to speak to that is an example that he's managed all those commitments in a way that there's a level of completeness around them. Because I think there's, and you sort of spoke to it, whether it's the marriage or whether it's the kids, there could be someone that has a ton of money, but their kids wouldn't have experienced their dad as a successful person. So I think just you being able to speak to it is an example that he's been able to, bring completeness to, at least at a certain level, to all of those.
Yeah. I have so much respect for my folks in that regard. Like I think over time, there were times as I was growing up as a kid when I thought like, my dad has a pretty successful business, you know what I mean? Multiple offices throughout the White Mountains. Like, why don't we build a bigger house? As a kid, like I'm thinking like, why do we live in this old brick house on Back Street still? You know what I mean? And I think that it just speaks to that success a little bit. Like it goes beyond money and that, monetary value. Like there are more important things than how big your house is, or you know what I mean? And just his ability to be able to kind of taper his emotions and like, no, this is our home. This is where we've been for years, and it's paid for, and we're happy here, and we don't need anything more than this.
Great location.
It is on Back Street, which is kind of coveted in snowflakes.
You can't beat the location. You should know. Location.
All right. Well, I'm gonna shift gears now. So on my goal list this year, there's a certain goal, a hobby I want to get into. That all I've got is to move the needle. Like I want to move the needle on that, and I'm not even clear exactly what completion on this would look like, but I just want to move the needle. And if I remember right, you may have some experience around this, so I'm very excited to ask you about it. And so this hobby that I want to get into has to do with a helicopter. And if I remember right, at one point you were going to do some helicoptering yourself. So tell me what you know about helicopters and what I got to do to have one.
Oh man, I'm probably gonna do an injustice to all pilots out there. So right when I got back off my mission, I was determined to be a pilot, and at first it started out that I was gonna fly airplanes.
Uh-huh.
And I remember talking to some people, and it's always funny, like the conversations that you have and the direction that you receive and why you end up making the decisions that you make. And for whatever reason at that time, like airplane pilots, it's funny because I think the industry has even shifted, like from what I've been able to kind of keep my eye on it. Like at the time, pilots were not in high demand. And so starting out, like if you wanted to go fly a commercial airplane, your salary was ridiculous. Like terrible hours.
You're making like $30,000 a year.
If that.
Flying all over the place, never home.
Yeah, terrible money. And so then I'm like, well, then I started to get a little creative with it. And like, what else could I do but still be a pilot? You know what I mean? And so then I started looking into helicopters, and there were some other opportunities with that. And I went as far as actually, as I was doing some college classes, I had a buddy that was in one of my classes, and he was going through helicopter flight school. And I went as far as doing the introductory flight, like paying to go down to the school, see what it was all about. He took me up, and
Nice.
we, flew around a little bit. And for whatever reason, like just the timing of things, I think the market was such that it was a huge risk. Like the amount of money that I was going to have to spend or borrow to go to pilot school, which you could say that about anything.
Yeah.
Like there's risk in business decisions all the time, but for whatever reason at that time, like
Just didn't pencil out for you.
it was a huge risk for me.
I want to know what attracted you about doing pilot in general, and specifically flying the helicopter. Like, I know you didn't pull the trigger, didn't go that route, but what had you interested in it?
I don't even know if I could answer that. Like it was just intriguing.
It was cool.
I love the idea of flying.
Yeah.
And still to this day, like looking back, knowing all that I know, not saying that I profess to know a lot about business, but knowing what I know about business, I don't think I would ever go be a pilot right now,
Yeah.
But I would still love to fly.
Yeah.
Like me and my business partner have talked a lot about going and getting our licenses just so that we can fly.
Yeah.
To fly.
Yeah, like I don't have any interest in making money flying a helicopter. I want to have a helicopter for me to play with. Like like on the 4th of July, me and my wife were driving around. We saw everyone in their side-by-sides going around, playing around. I'm like, that looks fun, but honestly, babe, I don't want a side-by-side that we go play around in. I want a helicopter that I go start up and we go buzzing around doing crap. I'm like, that sounds so much more interesting. And the funny thing is, flying in an airplane, I mean, it's not that I don't like it, but it's like driving in a car for me. Like my dad loves it. Like when he gets a chance to fly, like he's chomping at the next chance he gets to get up. For me, it's like, I like it because it's more efficient. Like, you can get me places faster than a car. But besides that, like, there's nothing inherently about flying in an airplane that I enjoy.
Yeah.
But a helicopter, if I got a cockpit that I can see out real good, can get a little crazy with, I'm like that. I like the idea of just balancing on this ball of air created from the helicopter. I'm like, that sounds like it's going to be a good time to me.
Yeah.
So.
Disclaimer: if you ever go on a helicopter with Garrett, make sure your life insurance policy is up to date.
That's the kicker right now. They ask that question when you get life insurance, and I can say nope, not a pilot. But it's gonna be a different story. Probably gonna have rates go up.
$250,000, dude. You probably get you a nice little helicopter for $250,000.
I know. And dude, the 2-seaters, you don't even need that. Like the Mosquito, that thing's like $60,000, dude. And I told my wife, I'm like, ultralight. I can get an ultralight that's 2-seater, and you don't even need a license. You just figure it out. And she was like,
She's like, oh, look at me, guys.
she's like, no. You're not doing the ultralight thing. And I'm like, why not? It's like a 4-wheeler for the sky.
We find Garrett on top of a cliff, getting ready to push himself off. He's like, oh, I'll just figure that out on the way down.
Oh, dude, I'm like, how cool would it be? I'll put a little landing pad right here on top of my shop. A little way to get in from here, dude. Dude, I'll be buzzing around.
That worries me a little bit.
Yeah, I was shook too when I found out, like, ultralights, you just buy one. No license needed. Just figure it out. You'll be all right.
So what other intention do you have with getting your helicopter's pilot license with that, other than just flying around Snowflake, being one-upping all the side-by-siders?
But that's about it. I mean, I can definitely see some things like when I'm thinking long term, like I've definitely got an intention to at some point buy a ranch that can be a legacy ranch for our family, which I would love to shoot things out of that helicopter. Another thing I've got going on is working on getting certified so I can skydive without being tandem. And so
He doesn't like being strapped to dudes.
no, I don't. So if I can find someone that else can fly the helicopter too, they can take me up and I can jump out of it. So, there's a plethora of things. I figure if zombies ever come
I
about,
gotcha, I feel
that'll be
you.
a handy thing to
I'm coming to your house, dude.
scoot around. Like, oh, zombies are here. Let's get out of here, family. Load up in the helicopter.
It's
So-
like the minivan.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. It's all intentional, right? Like, what purpose does it serve?
Like
And-
I could see a really cool thing of like I'm taking my wife out on a date tonight, and it's like hop in the helicopter, babe. I fly her up to Greens Peak. We just land right there. Like I got it set up, and it's like, ain't no one do dates. Like no one can do dates like I do dates. Like I just flew you from our backyard to the top of Greens Peak over here. We're having some dinner.
one way to secure your marriage for forever. Right?
So, there's a lot. There's a lot I'll do with the license. I just need the helicopter and the license, and there'll be things happening.
Yeah, no, I almost went back. I actually just was in a conversation. I've thought about going back and getting my pilot's license multiple times, but yeah, it kind of becomes one of those things like, am I going to use it? What am I going to use it for? Then you got to get a plane. And
See, and that's
I was gonna say my brother Charlie's real good at that. He's up to 3 right now.
dang, we'll just borrow one of his.
yeah, that's what you'll do. Well, that's something I've been what am I trying to say? Like my initial thought around anything is like how I turn into creating money. And so I've really tried to learn how to back off of that and be like, this is where I spend money, and that's like it costs money, and I want to create something over here so that can happen, and not everything has to cost money. Because my initial thing is always like, well, I can create this business that does a tour, and I'm like, I don't want to have a helicopter business. What am I saying? I want to have a helicopter, basically like a Sky 4-wheeler, like. Why do you go buy a 4-wheeler? Well, so I can go play with it. Like I want a helicopter so I can go play with it. So same thing with like whether it's a ranch or a cabin. Like it's tough for me to like short circuit that wiring where it's like figure out how to turn this profitable. It's like no, I want things in life that just cost money, and that's okay.
Dude, I just need to introduce you to mountain biking, man.
I've been waiting and asking.
Very, very small margin in making money in mountain biking. Well, you spend a lot of money.
See, that's great. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, I need to. I've been wanting to go mountain biking with you. I need to get it done. But
That's funny. Speaking of expensive hobbies, I went from basketball, which is pretty cheap, $100 pair of shoes a year. I've moved up to golf now, which you actually have to pay every time you play.
You can spend some money in golf for sure.
I'll tell you what, though, I did find I golf about 80% better, maybe a full 100% better without shoes. The last time I went, so that's the way I do it now. So that's saving a little bit on the shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't go hit range balls. Tyler's not wrong. Damn city of Snowflake.
So I am not a golfer. I'm pretty sure I entered a tournament one time as a kid. For whatever reason, my mom put me in a tournament, and I got penalized for throwing my club.
That's why I keep 2 drivers.
That was the last time I played golf. So
All right, so I want to shift gears, kind of bring this home on this last subject here. Shift gears again. So I'm going to revisit, though, where we did the podcast and it didn't get recorded. But I had an experience, and I love, love, love when this happens to me after that happened. And the experience I had was Celeste reached out to me and was like, where can I find this podcast? Like, you did that podcast, Paul, where is it? Freaking love that, dude. Like, I love when wives are like, where he's on a podcast. Like, I can't wait to listen. Where is it? Like, it just, man, it makes me so happy to see that.
Hey,
because-
we should have got that recorded, dude, because my wife never listens to me. so the fact that she wanted to listen to me,
will have been biblical.
You've
Yeah.
arrived.
But like the idea of having we did a podcast, and it's been so present for me since we did that podcast with Brandon Craig. If you haven't listened to it, it's definitely one to go listen back. But he talks about how his wife and I think he put it like his wife had his back, like she just totally supported him. Like, that was my experience with your wife when she reached out and was like, it's like she is Paul's biggest fan. Like, she knows he's on this podcast, and like she can't wait to get on there. So or hear it, like, just and cheer him on. Like, he's just got the biggest fan over there. And in my experience, like what Brandon said in his podcast, and like I said, I'd go listen to that if you haven't listened to it, anybody listening. Man, when I've got my wife fully behind me, like, I'm gonna move the world. Like, there's no question that I'll accomplish what I'm setting out to accomplish, and that experience had me think that you probably have a wife over there that's got your back. And so I'll leave it open-ended. I've got some specific questions if you want, but I want to first leave it open-ended. Like, what would you say to that?
dude, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, Celeste is Paul Johnson's biggest fan, and I don't say that like braggingly or arrogantly. Like, she does. She is loyal to almost to a fault, I would say. Like, when, if you attack her family, like, that woman, never will she get more defensive and like mama bear than when it comes to her family and to me. And I've always appreciated that, man, with Celeste, having her have my back and support me in, the crazy things that I've done and the decisions that I've made. And tying it in a little bit, Garrett, to kind of what we're talking about and just finding balance, I'll share an experience with you that I had kind of pertaining to Celeste. I feel like in the early years of business, like, I was so focused on making money and being successful that I truly think for me, I lost the vision of what life was all about and what was important, like what truly was important to me. And we had an experience when I was making a big decision. We were making a big business move to come back up to the White Mountains and open another real estate office up here. We were moving, and we had loaded all of our stuff into a huge 30-foot trailer that my dad owned. And crazy, one of the most crazy, bizarre things, but like pretty much most of our worldly possessions were in that trailer. And on the way up from Mesa to Snowflake, I was pulling the trailer, and it caught on fire. And somebody had flagged me down that there was smoke coming from the trailer, and long story short, the brakes had locked up, and when I pulled over, this trailer just engulfed in flames. And at the time, that was one of the most emotional experiences that I've ever had. Like, to literally watch everything that you own or have worked for from a material aspect go up in flames. Like, I immediately I started sobbing, like I was bawling. And I remember calling Celeste shortly after and saying, it's all gone. Like, it's all gone. And how foolish, you know what I mean? Like, looking back, like, you could totally see where my priorities were. Like, it was all on the material. It was all on the worldly aspect of things. And here I was on the phone saying to the most important person in my life, like, it's all gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my biggest fan, my partner in crime, my, you know what I mean, my wife forever,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm telling her that it's all gone. Looking back, you know, knowing what I know now, looking back, I just want to punch myself in the face. You know, and I think it's experiences like that. I've had a lot of experiences like that have put it into perspective for me. You know, that it's not all about money.
Yeah.
It's not all about business. Like, there are other way more important things in this life. And yeah, my biggest fan, you know, Celeste. And that phone conversation, realizing that I hadn't lost everything.
Yeah.
The
Really
most-
hadn't lost anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a thing.
Yeah, there's some worldly possessions that burned up, and it's all replaceable. We regroup, restart, you know.
Yeah.
And
That's incredible.
so-
Love that. And that's, man, I hope people can learn from that, not have to, because I can imagine how easy it would be to be emotional about that. So it's not like you were having a crazy response that an illogical response to it. But what a blessing to be able to look at and like step back and be like, yeah, this just is so instructive. And on a large scale, a less personal but a large scale, over the past, what would it be, year, maybe year and a half, like that's been really present for me. Just with the fact of how they're printing money, like it's not real. It's not real. Like, we could spend all our lives just totally focused on having built a number up in a bank account and there's people out there that are 82 years old that spent their whole life, lost families, lost friends, lost their relationship with God, lost themselves to build a number up. And, you know, this isn't to say doom and gloom, it's all over, but it's really clear that whatever number's sitting on a screen in a bank account, it's not real. Like, it is absolutely not real. They're like, tomorrow it could be worth nothing. I mean, just like your trailer burned to the ground, like everyone's bank account can go away like that. And it's not like aliens show up or something totally crazy. It's like they're kind of in the process of creating that right now. And so, like, so much more important, like going back to John's first rant, like, invest in yourself, invest in your relationships, invest in being with God, figure out what you're committed to, and, like, the creation of money is something that can just be a tool that you do so you can enhance the time that you have with the important things. So, dude, incredible story you shared, dude.
No, yeah, and I think that's a great way for people to put it into perspective. You know, it's like, if all this was gone,
Yeah.
if we did look at the screen that says I've got this X amount of dollars, you know, and that was gone, what do I have?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's really, truly important. My mom shared an experience with me when her mom passed away, and man, we could do a whole podcast on Grandma Schneider. Like, genuinely, I know most people are biased towards their grandma, but like, one of the most amazing people, truly influential. And I remember when she passed away, it fell on the sisters' responsibility, including my mom, to go and kind of, you know, clean the house out, get things together, take care of the finances and stuff like that. And my mom, when she went into that room and saw, you know, what an emotional experience to be in your mom's room and addressing her worldly possessions or whatever. And she said that in that moment, she just had this overwhelming feeling of, like, we don't take anything with us. Like, it all stays.
Yeah.
Money, you know, all the house, the worldly possession, everything. Like, she did not take not one thing with her as it pertains to monetary. And I'm so glad that she shared that with me, because it just reinforced, like, what matters, what's important.
Yeah.
You know?
Love it. Well, I got one quote that I think I'll end the podcast with, unless John, you got something else to add to what we're saying.
Not right now.
Okay, so it's from Benjamin Franklin. I'm not going to say it perfect, I'm sure, but I don't know how I didn't come across this quote before, because I'm like, this is going up on my wall. I don't know how this isn't one of those quotes that like everyone has heard, because I think it pertains to this so much and what you're committed to in life. But it goes something like, if you don't want to be forgotten as soon as you're dead and rotten, write something worth reading or do something worth writing about. And like that, and that doesn't have to mean you're big and famous or anything like that, but like with your family members, like look at what you're committed to and stay committed to that. And that quote, like it's one of those that I was like, how have I never heard this before? This is like, this is awesome. Like I want to read this on a daily basis. Be like, all right, like no, like I'm gonna do something worth writing about today. Like I'm moving that needle, whether it's with my kid or with my freaking hobby. Like let's live like that. And so yeah, dude, appreciate you coming on. We got it recorded in 2 places this time. Boom. So the world's gonna get to hear it. And yeah, let's do it again.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, peace.